Contemplations before chanting. The Sangha is invited to come back to our breathing so that our collective energy of mindfulness will bring us together as an organism, going as a river with no more separation. Let the whole Sangha breathe as one body, chant as one body, listen as one body, and transcend the frontiers of a delusive self, liberating from the superiority complex, the inferiority complex, and the equality complex.
Đầu cành dương liễu vương cam lồ, một dòng người thương dưới cung lầy, bao nhiêu trần lụy.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear International Plum Village Sangha. We are not only the people in the hall to listen to the talk this morning, but we also have many friends who are at this moment also everywhere on the world is watching this Dharma talk also. This morning on our way to Lower Hamlet, we see the foliage. Nature is changing its clothing. And I think for us to have this opportunity to dwell 3 months together, it is also an opportunity for us to shed many things that are the burdens that we carry for many years. Maybe we are not able to shed it right away, but one time, probably many times, gradually, throughout the 3 months, so we feel lighter, and more at home in our body and in Plum Village, or at home everywhere else. In the process of shedding, I have many reflections of my loading of my loads, shedding of my loads. Then I remember when I just newly ordained for about a few months. I was ordained in Lower Hamlet, and one day Sister Chân Không called all of us. She said that Thầy asked all of you to gather this evening in the hermitage, which is Thay's hut. It's a very rare calling like that. Usually we will gather in the morning for a day of mindfulness, or afternoon if we have some celebration, like Thay's birthday. But that time it was evening, so I thought it's quite special. So we all gather in his dwelling place. At that time the Sangha were much smaller, and so we all fit into that room. And he shared with us how his day unfolded. He did some translation, and then he did his walking. Then he picked up some flower, and then he showed us the flower that he picked in the morning. He asked, "Do you know what is the flower?" And it is forget-me-not flower. And so Thầy said, today Thầy wants to offer all of you a flower, not forget-me-not, but forget-you-not flower. It was so moving to hear Thầy said that. He said that doesn't matter how much work you are doing, either you're doing it for Thầy or you are doing it for the Sangha, doesn't matter. Do not forget yourself. It means that we have to remember the practice and not to be carried away by our work, by our plans, our projects. I think that day when Thầy walked, he realized something. And then that evening he said, some things that we are looking for, we think that is somewhere else, that we are looking, we are running. But actually, the things that we are looking for is right in front of us. So this morning, when Thầy walked, he stepped on the dried leaves, the bamboo dried leaves, and the sound of the bamboo leaves rustle under his feet. And he realized that it's right in front of him. And that's how we have the very famous and favorite calligraphy. This is it. So I remember this for a very long time. And so today we have a day we call a day of mindfulness. We don't call it a day of gathering, but we call it a day of mindfulness. And a day of mindfulness is designed in such a way that we remember, do not forget me, forget you, not flower. Because when we gather together, we generate the collective energy of mindfulness, of stillness, of concentration, and of joy. In the past, if we arrived late, if we were late for the day of mindfulness, we arrived around walking meditation time. We did not hear anything in Upper Hamlet or in Lower Hamlet or in New Hamlet. When we park our car, we walk into the hamlet, we did not hear anything. It's very peaceful and it is very silent. And so we may thought that we arrived at the wrong hamlet. But actually, when we walked into the hamlet, we saw a few hundred people walking with Thầy in walking meditation. And they generate such a peaceful energy. It's very serene and very still atmosphere. So that when we arrive, we feel that we can be at home right away for the day of mindfulness. Because after the talk, the bell would be invited and Thầy would lead the walk. And so when Thầy walks, everybody follow Thầy. And we generate such a powerful energy that in the whole hamlet we did not hear any other sounds except our footsteps. I like to share this with you because many of you never have a chance to meet Thầy in the past. So you would not know what was the energy of a day of mindfulness in the past. Now we have more local people to join us for the day of mindfulness. And of course, we have long-term and short-term friends who come for 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 months to stay with us. And so when we arrive, we are given an orientation about practicing mindfulness in our daily life. And then when we have a day of mindfulness like this, when we gather together, everybody together, we see many people that's a long time we don't see, or friends that we like to talk, and somehow we are carried away by our forgetfulness. And during the walking time, we still hear people talking, we still see people drinking tea, and doing something else and not walking. The schedule of the day of mindfulness is to help us to come back and to take good care of our flower, forget you not. So if we don't take good care of that flower, it will wither. And we will be carried away by many conversations and sometimes our suffering also. A day of mindfulness is for us to collectively generate the energy of mindfulness so it can support, embrace, and heal us. It's very different with the energy in the flea market. Right? When we come to the flea market, when we go to the flea market, people are talking, buying, bargaining. So the energy is very dispersing, not collective, because we come with very different intention. But when we come for the day of mindfulness, we have a kind of similar intention that we will cultivate mindfulness in this day. And mindfulness is something very simple to practice, but it's very hard to remember. And so that's how we have the schedule. It helps us to flow with the schedule. then our flower will be taken care of. The theme of this 3-month rain retreat is engage and apply Buddhism. So a day of mindfulness is a very concrete example of applied Buddhism. The way we sit, the way we walk, the way we eat, the way we talk, it will radiate the energy of mindfulness. And so when we are mindful, we are the living Dharma. The Dharma is not just the Dharma talk, but the Dharma, the living Dharma, can be seen in our daily life. And so when we hear the bell for walking meditation, it's a reminder to wrap up our conversation, to start walking to the gathering place, and so that we can walk together. The longer we stay in Plum Village, the more we get to the routine of the day. And so sometimes mindfulness is something intellectually we know what it is, but we don't generate enough mindfulness because there's so many things that can distract us. The conversation, the trauma, memories of the past can easily hijack us and bring us into the past or into the future. So many of us feel that when we are alone, we can focus more on our footstep rather than to be with the Sangha, to walk with the Sangha. But if our practice is not solid enough, we will be carried away by our mind. Therefore, Sangha walking meditation is for all of us to walk together so we can support and remind each other. So please invite the bell every 15 minutes so that our translators can have a break to drink and to breathe. So today we will talk about right speech. It's in the 8th Noble Four Path. The first Dharma talk, Sister Chân Đức talk about right thinking. So for those of us who have not watched that video, it's available on YouTube. So we can watch again. So I don't have to repeat what is right thinking. And because of right thinking, we will have right speech. And our teacher Thầy is an excellent example of using right speech and mindful speech. And after his Dharma talk, he elevated people, he lifted people up with his teaching, with his words. And many times I observe and I see that when he asks us to do something, not only we are happy to do it, but we do it with all of our heart. And I see that they have his power, the power of deep listening and the power of right speech, that he can motivate people and inspire people. He said that he is not here to tell us what to do, but he's here to inspire us. And he's inspired us with his right speech. Even when he needs to scold someone like me, he spoke in a way that helped me to see that I have more room to improve and not feel really bad that I was unmindful or I was unskillful. And see, so the way he talked and the message he wanted me to receive is full of love and full of kindness. Because he's very mindful of his speech, his choice of words, and his intention. Therefore, when he delivers his message, it is very clear for us to receive and feel very grateful, actually, because he's very mindful. That's for he have his power to inspire and to help us to see ourselves clearer. You know, of course, he always cushion us before he scolded us. But he spoke in a way that is very, very, very gentle. So sometimes, when I was not mindful enough, I did not hear the scold. Because the way he spoke very kindly. But after that, after many years, and after many times being reminded by him, I realized that he was scolding me. And right now, the Monastic Sangha, we are practicing shining light. This is a really, really a practice of right speech. Because each one of us, we will receive the collective insight of the Sangha to shine on our practice, on our being. In the past, when I received compliment or criticism, either I feel very elated or I feel very bad. If people criticize me, I feel really bad. But with the practice of shining light, with each passing year, I see I grow, even though not very fast. It's slow, but it's growing. It is such a wonderful practice that it helps us to grow and to see our potential, our strength, but also on areas that we need to work on. So the Sangha would speak in a way that helps us to see ourselves, like they turn on like 60 light bulbs. In this hall, I don't know how many, but in the shining lights, if the Sangha is 60 people, it's a 60 light bulbs. So it's very bright and to help us to see. And I really see that the intention is to help us to improve, to realize our potential, even though sometimes the speaking may be not quite skillful, but the intention we can see very clearly. Maybe we cannot accept it right away. A few days later, a week later, we are able to take it. Or sometimes months later, we are able to take that shining light and reflect upon ourselves and see that there is some truth in it. Maybe there's some perception. You know, perception is something that we have to work with it every day. And so right speech, maybe we talk about the first aspect of right speech is to speak the truth. Yeah? Like when we talk about right speech, it's about the fourth training, and in the 14 mindfulness training is also about the training about speech also. So we say that word can inspire hope, confidence, and joy in each one of us. But words can also push us down. So how do we know what is a right speech, when is right speech, and when is a wrong speech? We talk about right thinking, because thinking will lead to speaking and acting. So when we are mindful of our thoughts, then we can speak mindfully. We can choose words. That's how the day of mindfulness will help us to generate this collective energy of mindfulness. but not all the time that we can speak mindfully. And that's how we are training ourselves. That's how we have 2 days of mindfulness every week. And we have meetings, we have shining light, we have beings, we have many opportunities to gather together, and so that we can listen and we can speak. In order to speak mindfully, we have to be able to recognize what kind of perception we are having when we talk about. So perception is something that is very, very big to talk about. And in this scope of this Dharma talk, I just only can mention a little bit of that. When we talk about our perception, we have to understand that there's 3 kinds of mode of perception. The first one is direct perception. Not all the time the direct perception can be right. It can be wrong. Last spring we went to Italy for a retreat, and one morning I woke up with the sound of someone was flattening the plastic bottle. So at first I thought, wow, this is early to flatten the bottle. So if you only flatten one bottle, it may last only a few seconds, but it's going on and on and on. And my perception is that is a plastic bottle. That is the sound of the plastic bottle. But then about 40, 50 seconds later, I smell coffee. And indeed, someone was grinding coffee beans by hand. And that's how it smells so fragrant. And so in that case, that is the direct perception, because something you feel and you smell, but it is the wrong. I thought it's a right perception, but it's a wrong perception. And the second kind of perception is inference. That means we always compare something with something else and recall something of the past. And the second mode of perception can also be right or be wrong. And so on the same retreat, so one day 2 brothers supposed to lead the hike. When we started out, we were on the mountain. It was very pleasant, to walk on the mountain. And then we descended to town. And then for a while, we walked right into town with all the traffic. And we are not walking on trails on the mountain or on the through village or anything, but we walked straight into the main road, which is the highway. And we felt very insecure because of the traffic and also of the exhaustion from cars. So I was walking and thinking, and was like, what is an elder brother for? Because 2 of them, they supposed to lead the hike. And so in my mind, I think that they did not communicate enough. And so that's how we walk on the wrong path. And so this is a speech I would speak when I'm very sure about my perception. I would approach the elder brother and I say, I thought you would talk to him, you would support him. I mean, the younger brother, for this day. That is how I'm very sure of my perception. But because I learned not to trust my perception, so I give myself the benefit of the doubt. So I approach him differently and I ask, brother, did you 2 discuss about the route? Where do we go? And do we have the backup plan? And he said, yes, indeed, we talk. But the young brother, he really insisted that this is the way. This is the path. That's how we will walk. And so we went through. We have to walk on the highway. We went the main road, not the trail. And so when I asked the brother like that, he had an opportunity to explain to me that he did discuss and advise the young brother to take another route, not this route. But the young brother said, trust me. And so sometimes we have to let our brothers and sisters, our children, partners, friends, to make the mistake, and they learn from their mistakes. You know it is avoidable, but somehow we have to go through it in order to learn a lesson. Or we learn in a hard way. And the third kind of perception is wrong perception. It's wrong. It have very little possibility of being right. I was on a retreat on, so all the story that I have is from the retreat. So we was in Australia, and a lay person was very kind to offer us a ride to the resort where we have the retreat. And so we came to the house, we have lunch, and after lunch we drove to the retreat center. And as soon as we got in the car, the mother-in-law started talking right away. And I'm very happy with the meal, and I feel a little bit sleepy. And so I thought of taking my nap in the car. But the talking is going on and on and on for like half an hour already. So I thought, if they just can stop talking for 10 minutes, then I can have my nap. That's what I thought. But she did not. And we were stuck in traffic for like 2 hours or something, because it's a holiday, so everybody went to the beach. And so as soon as we got out of the car, the mother-in-law said, my son-in-law, he would fall into sleep right away if there is no talking around him. And he was a driver. And so upon hearing her saying that, I thought, wow, my selfishness is something that I really need to work on, and not her talkative, like I thought. So it's totally a wrong perception. And because of the practice of mindfulness, it will help us to see that our perception, we have to be very, very careful with our perception, and not to believe that our perception is right 100% all the time. And what is perception? Perception is something that it's just a habit of recalling things from the past. It is our affliction of the past, a trauma of the past. I think this is a very good example of our perception, of how we recall things in the past. We have a young sister who likes to ask, because she has great curiosity. So she asks a lot of questions about practice, about life in the community, about many, many things. And she expects an answer every time she asks, but not all the time she got the answer. And so one day, it's a lazy day, we have a long walk for 2 hours. And she used to walk with us for a few weeks, but that week she did not come. And so I asked, oh, where is she? And somebody said, oh, she likes to be alone. Instantly, I could not believe what is jumping out of my mouth. Oh, so then she can have another 100 questions. So what? My mind is like, it's even faster than the Apple computer. There's no need to process. It can jump right away. Because I associate that sister with question. And so when I hear that she's not coming, right away I think, she's alone, she can think of hundreds of other questions. And as soon as I spoke that, I said, oh, this is not right speech. Because the way I speak, it will influence other people's perception about her, which is not correct. So when we have perception and we are not aware of our perception, and we speak about it, we can easily influence other people with our perceptions. So the first aspect of right speech is speaking the truth. And that is how we need to check with our perception, even though we think that is the truth. I think the fourth mindfulness training is a very clear guidance for us to practice right speech and mindful speech. And as you see the connection, right speech have to be mindful speech. And so again, we really see that the daily activities, the daily practice to help us to cultivate mindfulness, so that when we want to speak, especially when we want to speak about difficult things that we suffer from, or conflicts, or whatever, we want to address it, because this is one way of building the Sangha. So most of the time, the easiest way is to complain. When things is difficult, when things is not happened as the way we want it to happen, and we find it's difficult to talk about, and we complain. The second easiest way to talk about is to talk about it without perception, with somebody else. And like I said, with our perception, we can influence other people. And this is happen daily. And sometimes people speak in a way, like they put words into my mouth. And later I will speak about that. And so when I listen without mindfulness, it gets in. And it will come out. So when we do the walking meditation, it will really help us to build and to train ourselves with each footstep to be mindful of our body. When we eat informal lunch also, it's totally silent. The sound of the spoon, the bowls, the sound of chewing food, these are the sounds that help us to be aware of our body and of our mind also. So we are not chewing and thinking at the same time. In that silence, we hear the inner chatter. The voice is talking at the same time. We are eating, but we are talking at the same time in our mind. So the formal lunch or the silent meals are the very, very powerful practice to help us to hear ourselves and to come back. And so if we daily practice like that, we can always check with our perception when we want to talk about things. In the morning when we wake up, before sitting, we have a gatha. We have many gathas for us to practice, to be mindful of our body movement. So the first thing we do is to step into the toilet and to brush our teeth. And we have a gatha to brush our teeth. Đánh răng và súc miệng cho sạch nghiệp nói năng. Miệng thơm lời ái ngữ, hoa nở tự vườn tâm. So when we brush our teeth, we cleaned our action, our karma of speaking. And when we have a very fragrant breath, then we can speak beautifully. And the flower of right speech can bloom in our heart. Something like that. Literally, that's the translation. So that is the first reminder of the day to help us to speak right, to help us to practice right speech. The second reminder, when we go into the big hall and we sit with the Sangha, one sister will chant and then we will respond after she chant Namo Shakya Munaya Buddhaya, then we repeat it after her. And that is the second reminder to help us to cultivate right speech. Because when we invoke the Buddha's name with all of his qualities, of course, right speech is one. And so it's another reminder of the day in the very early morning already to help us to speak mindfully. So throughout the day, we have many gathas to help us also to practice. So when we want to speak the truth, because sometimes, the truth can be very blunt. And it can be very hurtful for people to receive. So we have to find a way to speak. And I find that the way to build our Sangha, the way to build our family, our workplace, is the practice of right speech. When we have difficulties, when we have conflict, or when we have disagreement, or we have different opinions or ideas, the best way is to present it in a way that we all can see and hear the views of all the people, rather than to complain to another person or to influence other people with our perception. It's not really helpful to build a relationship with other people within our Sangha, community or family. In every summer retreat, we have many, many families to come and practice with us. And when we're now Dharma sharing, because they're couples that are practicing, and they always share, like the women, they say that they aspire to practice right speech and mindful speech. And the man would say, I would practice deep listening. That is always aspiration. And so to speak rightly, you have to have the ability to listen. And that listening comes from mindfulness. Even though we have very good intention, but if our mindfulness is not solid enough, for sure our habit energies will speak for us. And that's what I say, Thầy, he has his power of speaking to motivate, to inspire people. He also has the power to listen deeply, so that when we speak to him, we are very conscious about what we are talking. So the power of listening is also something that we need to cultivate. I also have my power. I think every one of us here, we always have our power. My power is, I think you know. I think probably we have the same power. Is to follow our habit energies. It's very strong. Many, many times I found myself speaking at the wrong time to the wrong people. And so it won't help resolve the conflict. And now and again, you really see what is a day of mindfulness for. It relates to everything in our daily life, all aspects of our daily life. If we want to go home and save our marriage, our relationship, it begins right here, with each step during the walking meditation. Because if right here, with these favorable conditions, we are not able to train ourselves, how do we do it when we get home? Even us, we live in the community. I still spoke at the wrong time. And my perception is not always wrong, or not always right. I'm sorry. Sorry. So one time, the young sister, she cooked a very good pot of soup. A lot of work into it. A lot of work and a lot of love. And so when I ate that soup, she asked me, "Is that good?" And this is my mother replying, "So-so." I know she expected a compliment. But I want her to work on that a little bit. so my mother would say, "So-so." And then about 10 seconds later, she looked at me and she said, it's not that difficult to say it's good. So I have a very good lesson. The second kind of speech is double tongue. We are not consistent in our way of speaking. Maybe in front of people we speak differently, but behind their back we talk differently. So this is called double tongue. And as we know, speech is the signature of our continuation. It's a kind of action that is come back to us. And again, we really see this is probably the habit. Maybe this is a way we need to compete with other people in order to be promoted, in order to be a favorite, in order to be accepted. And for long, it will become a habit. Or probably it's an inborn seed that we are born with it. And without mindfulness, there is no way for us to recognize this pattern of speaking. Of course, sometimes, if we want to speak the truth, you cannot blow it at one time. You may find different ways to talk about it. But I think many, many times in our life, we all experience this way of speaking, either from us or from other people. And that's how it's very helpful to have trainings to help us. Trainings, like the fourth mindfulness training is like compass, or like monastic training. We have some training about we do not talk about somebody, a third person, when that person is not present. So it's very helpful. And of course, we forget. We still do it from time to time. But the training is there to help us to be aware of our intention and our perception. The third kind of speech is exaggerate. When we are upsetting about something, little thing, or we are disappointing about the food today, or any other little things that we encountered in our daily life, we dislike it. So some of us, we have the tendency to blow it up so that it can be out of proportion. And so to make it sound like more serious, like if you're just upsetting about something, but the way we express it is like, I'm furious, I'm enraged. So when people listen to our speech, they thought that it's quite serious, something that is quite serious. And that's how the way we express ourselves. That's people have perception about events, about things. And this is also habit. Sometimes we have to survive, then we can exaggerate. Sometimes, if we want to impress people, or sometimes we are afraid to show our weakness so that people can see it. There's many motivations around this. And the fourth kind of speech is not using very harsh language, as it's very difficult to hear, like blaming, accusing, criticizing. One day in Lower Hamlet, many, many years ago, I was newly ordained. We have the telephone in the past, we have the telephone in the dining room. Now we don't have it anymore. But in the past, we have it in the dining hall. And so, because we don't have people to take the phone, to answer the phone all the time, so people know that at meal time is the time we pick up the phone. Because the community was very small. We don't have enough people to just have one person to sit at the phone and pick up and answer. And so they know meal time is the time we answer the phone. And so one day the phone rang, and I pick up the phone, and I say something very short. And then I hang up so that I can continue my meal. And about a few minutes later, the phone rang again, and somebody else pick up the phone. And there's a little conversation going on. And after the meal, that sister, the second sister who picked up the phone, she approached me and shared about the conversation. And to the end, she's mentioned something. That person on the other line mentioned that the first person who answered the phone, her words very harsh. I think that's for the first time ever I recognize that tendency and that habit in me. I have no awareness that words can affect people like that. And of course, I live all my life out there, and the way we speak, we are not having awareness of the choice of words and the tone of voice when we speak. Probably my intention is not to interrupt, not to hang up the phone, but maybe my words gave her the impression that I don't want to talk. And that's how she said that my words is very harsh. Now today, if we go for walking meditation around the greenhouse and the garden, we will see there's a lot of weeds. And with weeds, we don't really need to look after them, right? We don't really need to water them. They automatically grow. But if we want to plant some flowers, some vegetable, then we really need to put an effort into that. We need to cultivate the land. We need to put fertilizer. We need to put compost. So growing a flower or a vegetable needs effort and intention. And so mindful speech or right speech is like flower. Negative speech, harsh speech is like weeds. It's our habit, and it grows just like that. But if we want to speak mindfully, kindly, lovingly, we need to make an effort to train ourselves. And then you really see, Thầy emphasized a lot of daily mindfulness. He did not emphasize sitting 2 hours, 3 hours. But the daily mindfulness will help us to be aware of ourselves. And so when we speak, we are very aware of the speech, of our words, of our intention. If we can practice right speech, it will bring back peace, harmony, and reconciliation right away in our family, in our community. We can start a war with just words. And when we listen to Thầy, we really see he has that power to choose words, because words can inspire us, can lift us up, but words can also push us down. And people with insight, with compassion, they would speak in a way that they lift up thousands of people, millions of people, especially leaders. But leaders with a very narrow-minded, they can create division, hatred, discrimination. And we really see it in our society. And so the fourth training is something that is very, very precious to guide us in our daily life. to bring peace back to our family or community, or to create division or hatred. It's also up to our speech. We talk also today about right action. This is one of the Eight Noble Four Paths. So right speech comes from right thinking. Right actions also come from right thinking. Action here is, bodily action. So we have the 5 mindfulness training to guide us. And the first, the second, the third, and the fifth trainings is about action. Like the first training is about reverence for life. The second training is about generosity, not to exploit other people. We don't have enough time to go in detail into each training. Just pick out a few lines of each training. The third training is about commitment, and not to have sexual misconduct. The fifth training is about consumption, the way we consume. It can deplete the natural resources, can deprive other people of simple living their life. Actually, each training is very rich. Each training can take a whole Dharma talk to talk about. So we don't have time to go into detail of each training. But the right action is a kind of action that helps us to be aware of our volition, our intention to live our life, to make a living, to contribute our part into the process of global warming, to protect the earth, to preserve the natural resources. In a way, it helps us to see the intricacies of the web of life, that we all link together, that we are not a separate self, that our action will not affect any other people. We have the right to consume and to live our life the way we want. At first, when we have the Ukraine war, we think that is somewhere else. It's not in France. But now it's affect every single aspect of our life. And so our action is not our individual action, but actually it's have the effect on society and community and the world. We have to, the action of our body, we have 3 kinds of action: thinking, speaking, acting. And again, we can really see how crucial is mindfulness for our daily actions. Without mindfulness, we can create or generate a lot of negative actions, negative speech, negative impact on the earth, on society. To practice right actions, so we have the trainings to guide us, depend on the areas of our daily life. If we want to work on consumption, then the 5th training is for us. And if we want to work on generosity or investing in companies that not deprive other people of the chance to live, and we have 2nd training. And to protect life, we have the 1st training. And to build committed, loving relationship, we have the 3rd training. So we have the compass to guide us in our daily life, so that we can lessen our negative karma, our negative impact, and gradually we can transform all of our negative action into beautiful actions. Usually when we hear of right action, we think of doing something good for society, the good cause for society. Like protests, like many other and many volunteering works that we do, because we think that this is good action. But good action begins with ourselves, with our way of living, with our way of consuming, with our ways of thinking and acting. Lastly, we like to talk about right livelihood. Many years ago, when I was living at Deer Park Monastery, we have lay people who come and stay the weekend, or 1 week, or 1 month, or longer with us. So one time we have a businessman who came and stayed 1 week with us. He observed us very well for the whole week. And at the end, the last day before he departed, he talked, and then he said, "Oh, now I know. You are the innkeepers." Because we are monastic, so every week we prepare rooms and lodging for people to come and stay with us. So by the end, he thought that we are the innkeepers. And he said, if you want, I can invest and upgrade your accommodation to 3 stars. As you see, our accommodation is so humble and so simple. And to him, it's not a standard for people to come and stay. And so that's how he suggested. So when I hear him say that I am an innkeeper, I kind of reflect on that. Because I never thought I am an innkeeper. But I have to say that I am so fortunate that I can live my life without deceiving, robbing, lying, taking things that not belong to me from others. That every day I can live true to my nature, to nature around me, and to cultivate what is wholesome in me, so that I can transform myself and I can contribute little to the good of society. Actually, we choose to live poorly so that we have time to cultivate many beauties, many inner beauties in us. And Thay used to say, when you enroll in Plum Village University, this is the peace university. Because this is how you learn to cultivate peace and be peaceful with yourself and with other people. And so, if you're interested in this Peace University curriculum, it's available for 5 years. And some of us, after 5 years, they upgrade to 50 years. Some of us did. So, just to share with you so that you have this availability and possibility. But many of us, we do not have this fortune or this blessing to choose to live our lives simply, even though we want to. But the cost of living is rising, and we don't have enough to eat. So we have to work very hard to meet our ends. And we may have to work in corporation that not wholly support other human beings. Or we indirectly participate in the process of exploiting other people, other nations, for the wealth or the benefits of our corporation or nation. To have the vocation, that is satisfied our desire, our wish to contribute, and also for our personal growth, is something that's very, very, very blessing. And not many of us can find that kind of vocation. Many, many people, they suffer because of their vocation, the stress of the work, the pressure, the competition, the availability of jobs, good jobs, not that many. And so we have to compete. We have to lie. We have to take advantage of other people. But we know that we can live our life simply. At the same time, we can support the life of many millions of other people so that they can live their life. You know, the very simple act of our daily life can really affect millions of other people. Like for out of our convenience, we sit at home, we order food, the person deliver food to our home, but the person who deliver food not earn enough to have 3 meals a day. Or we eat the food that imported from other countries, and the people who grow the food not have enough to eat. So actually we have a great impact on the earth, on society and the world. And therefore we really need the collective energy of awakening so that we can be very much aware of the conditions of our society and the world right now. With the war, millions of people go hungry every day. And so with this awareness, it helps us to live our lives simply and contentedly, that we will not waste anything. You know, we all have a Facebook account. You know the CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah? He said something very interesting. He said that the challenge for our generations is to create a world where everyone has a sense of purpose. So if you have not have a sense of purpose yet, it's still not too late. With the collective energy of the Sangha, can help us to find our purpose. Because when we are together, we are stronger. And we can have a better direction of where we want to go, of where our children and grandchildren to be. So it is really a blessing to know what is our purpose. And it really needs a lot of reminders and support of the community to help us to stay on track and not off track. For whatever purpose, great, big or small, it always begins with ourselves. What is our volition? Volition is another kind of food also. So we have plenty of topics to talk about this afternoon. Yeah? I wish everybody a very pleasant and peaceful walk after this. Thank you.